Hello, my name is Mary, and this is my YouTube channel where I talk about art and the esoteric. This past March, my husband and I spent a month in Italy, which was something we've been trying to do for the past 7 years. We have a 24-hour flight time from here to Europe, so it has to be worthwhile to go all that way, hence us taking a month to go and see as much as we could. Purtroppo il mio italiano non è molto buono, ma provo. Adoro l'arte alla storia italiana. Mi piace rinascimentale, anche il barocco. La scultura barocca è la mia preferita. So yes, there was a lot of Bernini and Caravaggio on our itinerary, and I made my husband go and see all of it. Luckily, he loves history too, so there were no complaints. We visited the big galleries such as the Borghese, the Uffizi, the Vatican museums, very luckily a special Caravaggio exhibition at Palazzo Barberini, and countless churches with incredible artwork collections. One of the great things about Rome is that all the churches are free to visit, including St. Peter's, which is not the case in some of the other major tourist cities. Churches often have some of the most spectacular artworks, so it's very much worth visiting them. So, coming back to everyday life, I wanted to talk about some aspect of the works I'd seen in Italy because I was so moved by being in front of these pieces in real life. For this video, I knew I needed a series of works with an esoteric aspect, and I think I've got the perfect topic. It's one of my favourite themes from this era, the Annunciation, the biblical event where the angel Gabriel announces to the Virgin Mary that she will conceive Jesus. This moment holds a profound place in Christian mysticism, and given its significance, the Annunciation became a favoured subject in Christian theology, spirituality, and artistic expression from the earliest centuries through the medieval, Renaissance, and Baroque eras. The imagery within these depictions is deeply symbolic and extremely beautiful. I understand, some viewers may not enjoy Christian art themes, but in the West, Christian mysticism and esotericism are inextricably entwined. And this is particularly so in art from this period, where there are many artists also interested in esotericism. Leonardo da Vinci, of course, springs to mind, and I will be talking about one of his works later. I'm going to talk about the symbolism of these works from the biblical point of view and not go into details on the esoteric symbolism in a really didactic way. I think the thing to remember when looking at these works and what they are depicting is that this is a meeting between the human and the divine, and that at the heart of it, this moment is when the divine word is made flesh. So when looking at it from an esoteric point of view, keep that idea in mind. There are certain images and symbols that appear in Annunciation paintings, which I'll point out and expand upon as we go. The most important to look out for are the gestures and poses of Gabriel and Mary. Also the symbols of the lily, the dove, the book, and the garden. I'm only going to use Italian works in this video, as that's the theme I'm doing today, but there are many, many other amazing depictions of the Annunciation throughout European art from these same eras. Many of these photos I'm showing are my own, particularly the close-ups. But I've also searched online for a few photos of the gallery settings so you can see the size of the paintings in situ. I didn't take many photos like this myself as it was quite busy and there were always someone standing in the way when I was trying to get a picture from further back. So the first work I'm showing here is one I saw in the Uffizi Gallery in Florence. This is an exquisite Gothic altarpiece from 1333. The Annunciation with St. Margaret and St. Ansanus by Sienese painter Simone Martini. It is one of the earliest landmark Annunciations in Western art. It exemplifies the Gothic style with its elegant, elongated figures and lavish gold background. Gabriel kneels with flowing robes and golden wings, leaning towards the Virgin Mary, while she appears startled, even recoiling slightly and nervously pulling her mantle over her chest. The angel's cloak is billowing out behind him, suggesting he has just arrived, and he kneels, leaning towards Mary in reverence, holding out an olive branch, symbolizing peace and divine favour. Between them sits a luxurious golden vase of lilies, which is a symbol used often in Annunciation paintings, signalling Mary's purity. Above the scene in the apex of the central arch is the dove, representing the Holy Spirit. In Luke 1:35, Gabriel tells Mary, "The Holy Spirit will come upon you, and the power of the highest will overshadow you." So the dove is usually seen descending from the heights of heaven towards the Virgin. In this depiction, the dove is surrounded by the winged faces of 7 cherubim. I find the stylization of the faces in this work appear quite angry, but it seems typical of this Gothic period that the expressions aren't as natural as they become later, with their long noses and stern expressions making way for a softer countenance. The other very interesting element in this painting is that Gabriel's words are shown in 3D relief as if they have very form themselves. He pronounces Ave gratia plena Dominus tecum, which translates to Hail, full of grace, the Lord is with you. This painting was groundbreaking in its time for the emotional interaction it portrays and its fine detailing. It set a precedent for showing the drama and divinity of the Annunciation in one single striking image, influencing artists for generations and also establishing visual conventions like the lily and the textural greeting that would recur in later works. The next important image I have is Dominican Fra Angelico's Annunciation. Now, I didn't see this work even though it's in Florence. The thing about these works is they tend to belong to different churches, palazzos, etc., and you can only see so much while you're there. We were there for 4 days, and I didn't get to the convent of St. Marco to see this work, which is painted onto one of the walls there. This fresco is early Renaissance, around the 1440s, so it's moved away from the stylization of medieval art and is beginning to take on a naturalistic feel. This fresco is often celebrated for its simplicity, serenity, and peace. It shows Mary and Gabriel in a loggia, a sort of open-air portico, bathed in a soft light. It's very different from the previous depiction, as instead of being set against a flat gold background, it is actually showing the meeting of the 2 figures in a real-world setting with depth and perspective. Both figures incline their heads gracefully. Gabriel crosses his arms over his chest in reverence, and Mary mirrors the gesture, modestly crossing her arms in an almost identical manner. There is no overt drama in this scene, only a quiet meeting of 2 figures in an attitude of mutual humility, which is interesting because it's placing Gabriel and Mary, a divine being and a human, on an equal footing. This fresco captures the sacred stillness of the moment with soft colours and gentle expressions, as if the angel has just tiptoed in rather than made a grand entrance with a great fanfare. You may notice that classic Annunciation symbolism is not present. No lilies, no dove, no sacred texts. So if it wasn't for the halos and Gabriel's rather lovely coloured wings, it could be 2 humans meeting in a loggia. We only know what's happening here because we know the story. That being said, this painting has something the previous one did not, but which we will see again in later works. This is the walled garden. This motif is drawn from the Song of Solomon 4:12. A garden enclosed is my sister, my spouse, a spring shut up, a fountain sealed, which Christian tradition applied symbolically to Mary's perpetual virginity. This depiction has been tremendously influential and is considered one of the most beloved Annunciations in sacred art. It exemplifies the dawn of the Renaissance, integrating realistic understandings of space with medieval devotional clarity. This next work is probably known by a lot of people even outside the art world. It's Sandro Botticelli's Renaissance painting, the Cestello Annunciation from 1490. Every time I look at a picture of this from now on, I'm going to be disappointed, as I have never seen a reproduction that even begins to capture how beautiful this painting is. It is just stunning. The Birth of Venus and the Primavera get all the press and the excitement for Botticelli, but for me, this painting surpasses them. These are my photos from the Uffizi, and I'll also just show you one for scale, as the work is bigger than you might imagine. Botticelli's take on the Annunciation reflects the graceful linear style of the early Florentine Renaissance. He sets the encounter in a refined architectural space open to a landscape. You can see the walled garden, but there is also a single tree very prominently rising in the background above Gabriel's head. There are varying ideas as to the symbolism of this tree, and the one that resonates with me is that it indicates a bridge between heaven and earth, and very literally to the tree of life. I also got quite taken by the idea of the fountain sealed from the Song of Solomon, and was struck by the shape of the tree and its similarity to a fountain. The aspect of this painting that I find most arresting is the gestures of the two figures. Gabriel isn't just kneeling, he is bowing before the Virgin, gazing at her with awe as he alights from heaven into the room. She collapses to one side so that she nearly falls from the frame of the painting, with her arms stretched out in this gesture of perhaps uncertainty or humility, and her eyes are downcast as he offers her a stem of white lilies. The way that the angel and the woman's hands mirror each other is truly beautiful, creating a strange focus in the space where they don't touch, which reminds me a bit of the space of potentiality between the fingers of God and Adam in Michelangelo's creation of Adam. This dynamic yet elegant interaction creates a sense of theatricality, which is quite fitting as Botticelli is known for exaggerating gestures for their expressive effect. Botticelli includes the usual elements of Marian symbolism. One can see an opening in the wall behind the figures, subtly suggesting the door of heaven, and in the background a walled garden symbolising Mary's enclosed virginity. Botticelli's colour palette is restrained with muted blues and pinks and earth tones. You've probably noticed that colour symbolism plays a large part in these paintings, with blue and white for the Virgin, symbolising her role in blue as the Queen of Heaven and white for her purity. Gabriel often appears in red or pink, red expressing divine power and pink as a symbol of love and grace. The Cestello Annunciation remains one of the iconic Renaissance interpretations, marrying symbolic depth with the Renaissance era's attention to naturalism and emotion. This next work I also saw in the Uffizi Gallery. It's a high Renaissance work from 1472 by Leonardo da Vinci. Now, I'd seen images of this painting over the years, and I'm very sorry to say I didn't pay it that much attention. When I saw it in real life, I cannot believe how beautiful it was. It's hard to explain, but there's something luminous about the paint and the depth of colour, and coupled with the chiaroscuro technique that he uses, which is the juxtaposition of light and dark. It's just amazing. The only other paintings I saw with similar depth and luminosity were Caravaggio's works, and of course he took that juxtaposition of light and dark a step further into tenebrism, which is an extreme use of light and shadow. This was an early work for Da Vinci, but it exemplifies the High Renaissance's drive for naturalism, scientific perspective, and subtle emotion. In Leonardo's scene, the Virgin Mary is seated outdoors at a decorated marble table. She has been reading a book when Gabriel appears. He presents her with a white lily and makes a curious gesture like a benediction with his outstretched hand. Mary appears calm and thoughtful, with her body mostly turned towards him and one palm raised, perhaps in slight surprise. Both the figures' poses are really very naturalistic, although there are a few anomalies, like Mary's right arm appearing a bit too long, possibly because the intended viewing angle was from the side below, given it was meant to be on a church altar. I have to show you a close-up of the angel, as he is just so beautiful. I actually can't believe I got such a good picture. You can see that Da Vinci studied birds' wings from life for the angel's wings, and look at all the botanical details. Da Vinci manages to communicate the miracle in a very natural way. No golden heavens or written speech, just a beautiful quiet encounter at dawn in an idyllic landscape. It captures that moment where the human and the divine meet. While in Italy, I was lucky enough to see a lot of amazing works by Baroque painter Caravaggio, who is one of my favourites. But I didn't see this particular painting of the Annunciation from 1608, so we have to make do with a picture off the internet. I wanted to show this work because it has some interesting differences or progressions from the ones we've seen so far. Caravaggio's style is markedly different from artists in the Renaissance era. His Annunciation is dark, intense, and emotionally charged. The scene is stripped down to only the two figures of Gabriel and Mary set against a shadowy background. Only one aspect of traditional symbolism is present in the lilies carried by Gabriel. He is depicted not gently kneeling by Mary's side, but rather hovering in mid-air and actually looming over her. His figure is it's foreshortened and projecting forward, nearly coming out of the picture, which is an illusionistic effect not usually used by someone like Caravaggio and more akin to later Baroque ceiling painting. Mary is bowed over, holding her hands tight across her chest, appearing submissive and overwhelmed. If you think about it, this is a much more human reaction to an angel appearing in front of you, which would be incredibly frightening. Gabriel's face is hidden, making you wonder what his countenance is like and whether that is why she is looking away in fear. Caravaggio's signature tenebrism I mentioned earlier is evident in the harshly lit robes and arm of the angel, as the rest of the image is swallowed in shadow. While Caravaggio's Annunciation wasn't as widely famous as his other works, it stands as a pivotal reinterpretation. The Annunciation not as a gentle dialogue between two figures, but as a moment of almost shocking divine intrusion, emphasizing the human fear and wonder in Mary and the urgent mission of the angel to contact her. It paved the way for other Baroque artists to depict biblical events with heightened drama and emotional realism, aligning the Annunciation with Baroque theatricality while preserving its core symbolism, the angel, the lily, the Virgin, and the divine light. I think this work is dark and frightening, but full of wonder, and I can't wait to see it in real life one day. It's pretty amazing looking at how depictions of this scene changed over just a couple of hundred years, and just in Italy. But each stage in the artistic journey is so beautiful. If you have any extra interesting information to add about Annunciation paintings, please do leave it below. Also, if you like these videos but you would rather read and look at pictures than listen to me, I put essay versions of these on my website, which is in the video details below, and I often include extra imagery and things in those. It's quite funny, I started making these videos for myself to force myself into more formal research, because if I'm researching an idea and then I make it into a video, it has to be done to a higher standard. And I also wanted to practice presenting because as an artist, I sometimes give artist talks and things like that. So that's why I started doing this. It's quite surprising that other people seem to enjoy it too. So I will endeavour to do some more. Have a great week, everyone. Go and look at some more Annunciation paintings. You won't regret it.